And good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I want to thank you all for joining us today, and I want to thank Brian for having us today at his business and allowing us to host this important event here. We're here to continue making good on what I have been saying since day one. LA is open for business, but I want to add something else. LA is not only open for business, LA is ready to advocate for business. That means if you want to start, grow, or expand a business here, we're making sure you don't run into red tape. If you want to create jobs and strengthen our local economy, we are here to help. Because when businesses open in LA, when they grow and thrive, they hire people. And jobs are key to the future that we're building together, a future that is stronger, healthier, happier, safer, and more affordable. And we know that income inequality and affordability in this city is one of our key issues. How do we solve that? By increasing jobs. So I'm proud to be joined by Council President Krikorian and business leaders from across our city, and not just individual business leaders, but leaders of key business organizations are here. And so I'm excited to sign my fourth executive directive today, which is focused on small businesses, many of which are women and minority owned. Small businesses were hit especially hard during the pandemic, and yet they are driving our recovery. Almost every business that has opened since 2022 has been small. They are 99% of all new businesses. And when we look at net new jobs, small businesses are responsible for 63% of them. Today is about building on that success, which starts with understanding what barriers exist so we can remove them. So with this executive directive, I'm creating the Los Angeles Business Steering Committee, which will be led by my Deputy Mayor of Business and Economic Development, Rachel Freeman, and include a cross-section of city department leaders so that we can look for the red tape and eliminate it. So my direction to the committee is clear: perform a thorough review of everything from our business taxes and fees to our procedures and timelines. Moving forward, it would be easier for businesses to engage with the cities, whether that is for permitting or licensing. They will be met with support, not barriers. Our goal here is to put an end to opaque bureaucracy so business owners save time and money and are able to be successful and hire more Angelinos. There are processes in LA that have not been re-examined for years, in spite of new technology and the introduction of new markets. So today's executive directives is just one of many steps we're taking to demonstrate that LA is open to business, to connect entrepreneurs to opportunities, and help them access the tools they need to not only be resilient, but to thrive. So it is my pleasure to introduce a great leader in our city and someone who I worked with in Sacramento, and I'm very pleased to be working with here in LA, the President of the City Council, Paul Krikorian.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. And Mayor, let me first welcome you to the 2nd Council District. We're delighted to have you here in the district. Welcome to our beloved Toluca Lake in particular. And I want to thank you for your great leadership in so many areas. In the short time that you've been mayor, you've truly been a transformative leader, and this is no exception. Really grabbing the bull by the horns when it comes to finally, once and for all, taking on the many challenges that we know businesses face here in Los Angeles and trying to find real, tangible solutions for the owners of particularly of small businesses. You've taken it beyond talk and into action. And so for that, we're all grateful to you very much. And I want to speak briefly about why that matters so much, because the mayor touched upon the fact that the vast majority of our businesses are small businesses. They are the creators of most of our jobs here in Los Angeles. They are the creators of opportunities. They are what lift people up out of poverty and give them the opportunity to succeed. But they're more than that. And as you walk up and down these sidewalks along Riverside Drive, you'll see that the small businesses in this community not only are the manifestation of someone's dream, not only are they the creator of local jobs, but they really are the foundation of this community, this neighborhood. They define this neighborhood, and we have so many neighborhoods around Los Angeles where the success of our small businesses means the success of our neighborhoods and our communities. And yet, too often, we know that the city is the barrier to that success. Too often, we know that bureaucrats in some department, 3 levels down, find ways to say no instead of ways to say yes. And it doesn't have to be that way. And I'm especially proud to be here at Red Maple, because I often hear from some of our business leaders here, well, in Burbank, they do it differently than in Los Angeles. So I'm very pleased to have a former Burbank business that is here in Los Angeles now and setting up shop here. So, but be that as it may, I just want to give you a couple of brief examples. Restaurants trying to get a conditional use permit for the sale of alcoholic beverages have to go through so many hoops to get that. It takes months. Sometimes it can take 6 months or more and cost tens of thousands of dollars to get a CUP to sell wine in your sit-down restaurant. And at the end of the day, we almost always end up at the same place with a list of conditions that protect the neighborhood, that the restaurant ends up agreeing to, and we roll with it. So one of the things we thought about in the council is, well, what if we just have all those as agreements in advance? You have a list of conditions, and if everybody just says, yeah, I'll take that list, they get expedited treatment for their conditional use permit. We've implemented that program, and as a result, we can now get a conditional use permit done for beverage sales in 4 to 6 weeks at a cost of about $6,000 instead of $20,000 or more and more than 6 months of delay. And that 6 weeks versus 6 months means a difference of whether a restaurant stays open or closes its doors. So that's one small example. Another example is our procurement reforms that we've made. If you're a small business and you've tried to do business with the City of Los Angeles, you know how onerous that can be. So working with these business leaders here, the LA Business Council and others, we've fundamentally reformed the procurement process. We've created RAMP, which is a portal that small businesses here in Los Angeles can be a part of to marry up with opportunities that we have here for procurement and to work with larger businesses in delivering services and goods to the City of Los Angeles, so that the billions of dollars that we spend in procuring goods and services for the City of Los Angeles don't go to North Carolina. They come to North Hollywood instead and create jobs here in Los Angeles. And because of RAMP, because of Compete for LA, because of the Office of Procurement, we're now able to do that and say yes. So these are just a couple of examples of ways that we can do a much better job in not saying no to businesses, not getting in businesses' way, but lifting businesses up, creating bigger businesses out of smaller businesses, creating more jobs, creating more revenues that we can then spend on the services that everyone depends upon. That's what this executive directive will do in advancing us towards. But we have much more to do after this. And I know the mayor is deeply committed to this. The council is deeply committed to continuing this progress. And together we really are going to get past the slogans and make Los Angeles a truly great place to do business. So, Mayor, thank you very much and congratulations.
Well, as mayor, I get the privilege to sign the executive directive, but I want to take a moment now and introduce the person who created the executive directive, her work, her leadership. Very honored that she is on my team as Deputy Mayor of Business and Economic Development, Rachel Freeman.
Thank you, Mayor Baz, for that kind introduction. And good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Rachel Freeman, and I have the honor of serving the city as Deputy Mayor of Business and Economic Development. My first priority after joining the administration back in March was to engage with the business community in a meaningful way, particularly small businesses, to listen and understand where the gaps are, and to understand how the city needs to move forward and work better to support businesses. In fact, in my first few months alone, I've met with over 100 business organizations on the mayor's behalf in my first few months, and the message is clear. The business community is looking for a partner in City Hall. And today is a great step forward towards that mission. Businesses have called for this executive directive, and once the mayor signs this document, I will be leading the Los Angeles Business Steering Committee, which is comprised of a cross-section of various city departments, and my role in that process will be to convene and provide direction to the steering committee, as well as to develop a framework for assessing the city's red tape. Within the first 90 days, the steering committee will report back on initial findings, which will inform the basis of recommendations of how we can implement this executive directive to support small businesses around development and growth. The mayor's direction on this has been clear. It's been to perform a thorough review of everything from our business taxes and fees, procedures and timelines, and report back on how we can do better. Our goal here is to put an end to that opaque bureaucracy and to be able to hire more Angelinos. As the mayor mentioned, we have been working to reform decades of antiquated systems, regulations, and policies, and there are processes in place that have not been re-examined for years in spite of new technology and the introduction of new markets. The Business Steering Committee is going to look at all of this, figure out what has worked, what hasn't, where things can be more efficient, streamlined, and modernized. Part of that is breaking down the silos that the city has been operating under for years, which has resulted in roadblocks and delays for businesses, and we want to make sure that LA remains competitive and adopts best practices. So the committee will also analyze how other cities can attract and grow businesses. To be clear, this is not a working group to talk through the issues. This executive directive forces much-needed surfacing and review that will lead to action. While the city offers many resources today, such as free business assistance, website and online business optimization, debt and credit counseling, it's clear that it's not enough, and we cannot neglect the city's fundamental responsibilities to provide ease of access and certainty of service. We must ensure that we are facilitating business growth in our city, becoming more efficient, and ensuring that more entrepreneurs and innovators can succeed. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing two such entrepreneurs that this executive directive is intended to support. However, before I do introduce those speakers, I did want to take a moment to recognize the members of the business community that are here with us today. Lily Roca, CEO and Executive Director of the Latino Restaurant Association. Thank you for being here with us. Nancy Hoffman-Vayak, CEO for the Greater San Fernando Chamber of Commerce. Stuart Waldman, President of VICA. Marianne Jacques, Executive Director of the United Chamber of Commerce. Andrea Nunn, SVP of the Los Angeles Regional Chamber of Commerce. Mary Leslie, President of the Los Angeles Business Council. Nella McCosker, President and CEO of CCA. Tracy Hernandez, Founder and CEO of BizFed. And B, the Thai American Chamber of Commerce of California. Eric Garcia, President of the Toluca Lake Chamber of Commerce.
Home field advantage.
Right. And Kevin Caleb, our Regional California Black Chamber of Commerce of the San Fernando Valley. Thank you so much for being here with us and for your support. And now I'd like to introduce you to our gracious host and co-owner of Red Maple, Brian Vysotsky. Brian is a wonderful example of how we can support business creation and attraction here in LA. And as a former Burbank-based entrepreneur, Brian has made the big decision to pack up and relocate to the city of Los Angeles earlier this spring. So now that he's here, we want to make sure that we set him up for success so that he can continue to grow his business and brand. Brian?
Good morning, and thank you, Mayor Bass and President Kokorian, for choosing Red Maple as your location for today's press conference. My partner, Jim Orozco, who's back here, and I are both honored to have the City of Los Angeles and the Mayor shining a spotlight on our local business. I also want to note that this is great timing for this event because Toluca Lake is actually celebrating its 100th anniversary this year, and coming up in this December, we're throwing a big celebration right here on Riverside Drive, so we invite all of you to come back for that. June is also Pride Month. As members of the LGBTQ plus community and small business owners here in Toluca Lake, Jim and I are grateful for hosting Mayor Bass for this important announcement. Hospitality is in my DNA. My father taught hospitality management throughout the East Coast at universities and colleges while I was growing up. And now Red Maple has allowed me the opportunity to use those lessons I learned from my dad to give back to a city that has given me so much throughout the last 20 years that I've lived here as a resident in Los Angeles. Though I moved to LA from the East Coast, my business partner, on the other hand, was raised right here in North Hollywood. He's a graduate of Walter Reed Middle and North Hollywood High. Since Jim and I relocated Red Maple to Burbank, as you already all know, to LA, we received a huge amount of support from the community, some of which is here. And giving back to our community is extremely important to both Jim and I. So I encourage anyone listening now that are small business owners to get involved in your local communities and support your schools and your other nonprofit organizations. Opening up a business here in LA was a priority for Jim and I, and we were a product of the restaurant beverage program. So that tremendously helped us speed up that process. So thank you. And when we found this space in Toluca Lake, we were truly ecstatic. We have an awesome team working here at Red Maple, and they are a huge part of our success. And we've doubled the number of team members that we've had since we moved from Burbank to Toluca Lake. Being in Los Angeles was a big step in the right direction for us. It has opened up so many doors for us as small business owners as well as community members. Prior to opening Red Maple 6 years ago, I spent some time over 20 years producing shows like Deal or No Deal and Fear Factor, to name a few. I've always felt a connection to LA through that. However, I can finally, as a true small business owner, make a bigger contribution to the city of LA that has welcomed me with open arms. Jim and I want to see every other business like ours thrive, despite rules and regulations that they've mentioned that are oftentimes extremely hard for small business owners. I cannot thank Mayor Bass enough for her dedication to this issue and for helping lift up our business, all of our businesses, big and small. I've followed Mayor Bass for quite some time, since her time in the State Assembly as well as in Congress. And she has, and most importantly, continues to be a champion for small business. I feel confident with Mayor Bass's new executive directive. It will be easier and more accessible for all business owners to open up in Los Angeles, but more importantly, stay here in Los Angeles. Today is the beginning of a new chapter in Los Angeles for all small business owners, and it couldn't have happened without the mayor and her entire team. So thank you again for hearing us, hearing our concerns, and taking active steps to make Los Angeles accessible and for everyone and to be a more business-friendly city. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And if you didn't already know, we are so thrilled that you've decided to relocate back to our great city. And now I'd like to take a moment to introduce Mika Scott. Mika Scott is a physician's assistant and small business owner of kin who's currently in the process of launching her own salon here in Los Angeles. Mika's story highlights the real barriers that new business owners face when opening a brick and mortar location.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for the lovely introduction and for having me here today. I am a nationally certified physician assistant with over 20 years of emergency medicine and internal medicine experience, a similar background to our mayor. About 8 years ago, I branched out into aesthetic medicine and really enjoyed the ability to make my patients feel more empowered and more confident about themselves. 4 years ago, I took the leap of faith and started my own practice, but during that, I've learned how lengthy and complicated the process for opening a small business can be. It is so refreshing to know that the city I chose to start my practice in is now prioritizing businesses and business owners like me. Finding a space to rent that was zoned appropriately for medical use was daunting, and for so long it felt like the city was working against me instead of for me. Eventually, I found an office that was perfect for my needs, but instead of being met with assistance to open, I was met with more than a year and a half's worth of delays that continue to keep me out of my space to this day. But today, I feel like all this is changing, and I know that people who are dreaming about starting their own businesses, just like me, will benefit from the action taken today. Fewer hoops to jump through and assistance instead of obstruction will mean more small businesses open in our vibrant city. It's time for the city to take a proactive approach to look out for business owners, and I am thrilled to support the mayor as she signs this important executive directive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mika. And now I'd like to welcome Mayor Bass back up for the whole focus of this event, which is to sign Executive Directive 4. Mayor Bass?
Well, let me thank you, Deputy Mayor Freeman, and everybody that's here today. Most of the business leaders here, we began speaking over a year and a half ago, talking about what the challenges are of doing business here in Los Angeles. And I'm somebody that I don't believe in smoke and mirrors. This is serious. I want to see some very specific outcomes, and I know that with leadership like Deputy Mayor Freeman, when she says in 90 days we'll be back with tangibles, she means that. So with that, let me sign. All right. Thank you, everyone.